So today I'm so excited for a very special guest, Amber Sperling. Amber and I met in an Empower Her course together, and I'm very privileged to have you here. Where I wanted to say first, congratulations to you winning that pitch that was part of the course and gave you an opportunity to expand your business, which is so very much needed. And the work you're doing is so incredibly important. I myself, a mother of one, knew that firsthand that postpartum is real, and even I guess we can dabble a little bit into the later phases of motherhood and perimenopause and that. But today we're going to walk through your journey, so I want to give you that opportunity to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here and appreciate the invite. So I am Amber. I am a registered social worker. I'm also the director of Amber Sperling Social Work and Psychotherapy Services group practice based in Barrie and Orillia, Ontario. And we ground ourselves in supporting moms. We want every mom to know that they're not alone. We're here to reduce the overwhelm, combat loneliness, and to support that very difficult yet common and normal transition. So we work with women, and our goal is to create community and improve wellness.
It's such an important thing. I think back to when I had my son, and we had this wonderful group of women that I joined through a Barrie program, which was the main space that helped me just work through all the changes that we go through. And I mean, change is constant. And so I'd love to listen in and find out what was your origin story, and I walk through with the framework of my book of Ensō Tell Me More, and that seed is our origin story. And the seed that could have been planted by someone else, and where along. So I'm very curious. Let's talk about what your seed and origin story.
Yeah, I feel like when I talk about my origin story, especially as a business owner, I feel like there's multiple parts, which I think is the same for anybody. I mean, I grew up in this area, and then I had these significant events that drew me into social work, not having very many blips along the way in a really amazing, fortunate way. And then in late high school, I discovered there was a tumor on my spine and went for a major surgery, yet because of the support of my mom, didn't really feel like that was a blip. Right. Mm-hmm. And then now as a mom, really realizing what that was, not even for me, for her, what that must have been like. And then prior to my journey into motherhood, which, is the basis of my business, I lost my mom to cancer when I was in university. And so not long after, in the grand scheme of things, that event of having to have the tumor removed. So anyway, as I say, there's all these pieces, and I talk with clients about all the pieces that form the puzzle that is us. And so when we talk about seeds, in my transition to becoming a mom, there was very much that missing piece, or that, piece missing from the seed of my mom not being there. And then becoming a mom and struggling, feeling overwhelmed, feeling alone, feeling so confused as to how can I be someone that, works in mental health and felt so supported and prepared and yet still struggled. So that really ignited a passion in me around supporting moms, so nobody felt that way. Because I knew if I felt that way, then so many other moms not only felt that way, but were probably suffering more. And so that was really a really important piece in the journey of where I am today.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful story, and I actually say beautiful as even in the hardship of the hardships that we go through, and we get really curious on hey, if I'm feeling this way, right, what can I start creating to offer support to others? Because I'm a son, and that's what I see is your first root that emerged from that seed was your own curiosity to well, this was really hard. Like I mustn't be alone in this. And I think so many mothers can think that and feel so alone, but it's like, you're not, like there. And like hormones are that cocktail inside you that rage. I mean, I'm no doctor and I'm no physicist, but or psychologist, but I experienced it myself. And it was the help of others who had that expertise that helped me get through that. So that's amazing that you're doing that. So when I hear that first root of curiosity of like you finding your own solution to something that was so hard in a moment in your life, and when we talk about the roots, those roots are what grounded you in finding growth for yourself. And let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and I genuinely love the metaphor because it's so true. And so, having support and, timing lining up, I'll say. So I returned from mat leave, and one of the first projects that landed on my desk, I was working in primary care at the time, doing mainly counseling therapy. And this project of the after baby groups was needed in the region. And I was like, well, yeah, obviously, but not at all with that attitude. But Jamie Charlebois, who many people are aware of regionally, she is one of the main advocates in the area. And she asked if I wanted to be part of running, like facilitating after baby groups. And so that just like, when I talk about like feeling more ignited and like roots growing, I was like, yes, this feels right. And so I leaned into that and co-facilitated those groups from when I returned from mat leave. And I guess I always get lost in the numbers, but I guess like beginning of 2018 was when we started that, until I left that position in 2022. And had other co-facilitators come and go, but this was just, I was like, no, this needs to be done. And further my focus on like professional development in that area, had another baby. Actually, I was in Chicago at the training for Postpartum Support International, 7 weeks pregnant, and like hadn't told anybody here, but I'm like, hey, I'm in a whole different country and probably won't see these people again. So that like just that wraparound support that comes from, being pregnant and being a mom. It's incredible.
Yeah. Part of what I started studying too, and what I hear emerging from you is like, I've been studying this return on energy, right? And when I write in the book, I actually wrote it in looking at the tree of like the cycle of photosynthesis, or even like the water cycle. And I saw this kind of parallel to us as humans and our own energy, and the reciprocity of when we find something that is our calling and we start pulling that string, we start following it, and that return on energy that we start to see in finding our own self-agency to create programs or whatnot, right? So I know we didn't talk about this earlier, but what was that energy that you started following that you're like, okay, this is it. This feels right to what I'm creating and what I'm building?
It's a good question. I would say, it seemed like it wasn't work. It wasn't work. I just enjoyed doing it. Right. When you find something and you're like, I'm drawn to it, I'm just going to do it. It's not, the friction isn't there. Right. And so when the friction started to show up for me was actually when, I returned to the office after my second mat leave, and started to notice I was like very rationally, understandably being asked to do things that were outside of that energy. Mm-hmm. And so I was noticing other areas that did not have that energy, and that's where the friction was showing up. And so things like seeing clients that I enjoyed working with, but they weren't the new moms or the pregnant people. So I noticed, as you're saying, like, there's definitely different energy, and what I was drawn to, and what was pulling from me, and what was filling me. And I like to use those types of analogies too, of like, you can't keep doing the things that are only pulling. We need to have that feeling of feeling filled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the reciprocity is that word that I really like to get that return on energy, right? What you give back and what brings you energy, and the same thing to be able to, what are the things that you'll do until 3:00 in the morning, right? And be like, that felt good. Absolutely. Yeah. So, and then as the tree starts to grow, right? The trunk is the visible part of our tree that shows up, and as we continue to grow. And so what were some of the strengths that really helped you stand tall in growing your business and growing yourself?
Definitely support. And I think for me, having people around me that had that were also business owners that understood that. So going back to that seed, my dad is an entrepreneur and my husband's an entrepreneur. I was joking with my dad yesterday. I was like, does anyone in our family work for someone else? And he's like, oh, okay, good point. So like, I guess that's in my blood. So that was definitely like supportive and energizing, keeping me sturdy, knowing that like many people around me have done this and it's okay. I think community, you were talking about, you mentioned like values. So community and connection are huge values for me, and they ground me in my business. As well as, I'm just going to add the other two, are authenticity and humility. And so knowing that like when I show up authentically in my community for connections, they're going to be that much stronger. And that holds me up as well. And then the humility of knowing like I am not the expert. And when I connect with other people and value them as the experts of themselves, that connection just is even stronger. So though, like holding my values and using them as strengths has for sure propelled me forward. I've like from the beginning, community and connection have pushed me forward. Like they're my motivators. Always like, who can I meet? I'm so glad that we met in that program and all the other women, because it was so amazing. And having the like growing community, learning about other people, and you never know who you're meeting and what they're doing and how your connections can help each other to grow. And that's something that people always say, oh, you work so hard making connections. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I work hard at it or I just really value it. And so finding opportunities to get in different rooms and meet different people. And don't get me wrong, I get anxious. I have some anxiety around it, but I also know that like the excitement and anxiety show up the same in our bodies. So I tell myself that, and that helps. And then I also know that like the cost of feeling a little bit anxious is nowhere near the benefit of the connections.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like that curiosity as the first route to give you courage to do something that may feel a little bit anxiety. And I read recently Tasha Eureich's book Shatterproof, and in that book she introduces the 3 to thrive. So the 3 to thrive are confidence, connection, and choice. And now I can't unsee that. And that the 3-pronged stool of like confidence, connection, and choice. And all you have to do is have the courage to step outside that comfort zone to see and build those connections. And I would agree. I also felt this like, anxiety, but I feel that the authenticity part that have built is when your thoughts and your actions and your words and your behaviors all start to align, that it then becomes a lot easier to do these things. And it's something that you have to like actually work towards, right? And to share a little bit, my previous thoughts and even going through motherhood were those self-limiting thoughts, right? Why am I doing it? Can I do this? Like, what am I doing? Am I a good mother? Like, can I be an entrepreneur? And when I stared directly at those thoughts, and I actually gave it a name, I call it Annie. Annie are the thoughts that come through. Then I was like, yeah, that's just another voice that's going to keep me in comfort and safety. And then finding like which of my voices had the courage to do different things.
Yeah, I love that. I feel very like connected to that. And, curiosity and compassion are your two best friends. Because if you're curious, then you're non-judgmental and you're just showing up, wanting to learn, and with compassion for yourself and others. We're human and we make mistakes. And so if you show up authentically and it doesn't go well, that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. So
yeah, absolutely. And I'm not sure if I actually mentioned it throughout, but the name of the podcast is Ensō, but what I started to hear was Ensō and Ensō actually sounded the same. And what came after when people said Ensō, and they talk about something, often were these like key insights that brought together like that little ounce of curiosity or courage to do something. And so when I started to build this out, and as I hear all these little Ensō moments, and my encouragement to the audience is to also be looking out for your own Ensō moments as we talk through these podcasts and conversations. And so as we further continue as well, is like what I'm curious more is part of the roots of growing that trunk and your roots so strong, which then allow you to have that awareness of recognizing and seeing when the weather comes in, and that strength for when the weather comes in. And so like, I'm even curious for you, what are some of the storms that you endured that you knew you grew the roots deep enough to endure those storms?
Well, I mean, over the lifetime or more?
Whatever you feel relevant for this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, definitely as a business owner, financial stability is a storm of like riding the ups and downs. That's been new for me, not having that regular salary. And so grounding myself in like knowing that I can do what I'm doing, like that there are ups and downs. I know there's like, that could be a whole other conversation about financial stress, but I think that's like definitely in terms of having the roots of knowing how to manage the stress and looking ahead and connecting with, having open conversations with, my partner, or managing those things. Kids, I'll say that's one for sure. So like my husband and I both being business owners, when the kids are sick, who's getting the call, rearranging clients. And again, like knowing what my business is and the values, like being authentic with my clients, like I'm a mom too, and I'm really sorry. And I know this impacts you. And also like my kids come first. And I think the majority of people are okay with that. In fact, I'm very honored, like, and blessed because the majority of the people I have in my life in general, we share similar values around that. And so, the storms around like the kids having different needs, the schools shutting down, adapting in those ways, like really relying on, as I said, being authentic and connecting with people and being honest. And, there's definitely been times in my life where I wouldn't say I wasn't honest, but I tried to like avoid being vulnerable. I'll put it that way. And that just felt gross. I'll be honest, because, trying to not be vulnerable is not being authentic. And then it disrupts the connection. So that's for sure. Like as there are storms that come up, sometimes I have to, use that self-talk of like, okay, no, ground yourself and like, just be you and it's okay. And the people that aren't okay with your choices, they're either not your people or you're just not aligned. It's not, easier said than done, but it's definitely helped me as, a mom, a human, a wife, a business owner.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that you bring that into, because it is about building that trust in those communities and the forest that just let you be that authentic, genuine self, and that it's imperfect and it's impermanent, and that we're dynamic. Everything is dynamic in that nature. And the more we allow that to be, because we're building on those roots and building our forests and our systems and our ecosystems that help us thrive, then it allows for the messy. And I mean, the whole background of the Ensō circle is the imperfect and impermanence of everything. And so, yeah, very real. Of those authentic connections and trust that you've built allow the imperfections to be so perfectly ingrained into the ecosystem.
Yeah. And actually, I just thought of this, but like our logo for my business is a woman's head with, it's like half brain, half heart, but then the umbrella. And so the whole idea of, I love like Banksy's painting of, we're learning to survive in the storm. We're standing in the rain. We're not avoiding weather. Weather is part of life. And so if we try to avoid it, then it's just going to make it harder. So yeah, like how do we accept that weather's going to come and feel more prepared for it?
Yeah, it's cyclic in nature, right? And how everything in life is cyclic in nature. And so even see that umbrella as like the canopy, right? The canopy of a tree acts like as an umbrella as well. And love hearing the canopy that you're creating. But why don't you go a little bit more into that?
Yeah, I mean, I have big visions. Sometimes I have to reel myself in, but having a team where, it's not just me providing the support. So having a team where we're working together for community. But beyond that, I mean, I could talk about like the business structure, but also beyond that, like our connection with the community as a business and as individuals. So I'm on I co-chair the perinatal mental health task force for the region, because I know like I can meet with all these moms individually, but we need change in the systems to better support families. So, being involved in the systems, being involved with the RVH Hospital Foundation to, again, like pay attention to how the hospital is structured and where money's being spent. And, I'm a voice out of many voices at the table, but like what is that canopy for me? And where do I feel like I can, make a difference and not just sit back and let other people decide what that looks like. So in terms of like maternal health, women's health, being like such a big passion for me, being connected to the community and creating that canopy. That's a big piece that propels me and keeps me going. Family for sure is part of that. Staying grounded and reminders of that. Trying to think of, I know there's more.
Yeah, no, well, it's such a beautiful, and I see that you're planting your own seeds everywhere of the wisdom that you share, and even just not even in a small moment of time, but I mean like that maternal health and even like its hormones. And even as I kind of embark, like I'm definitely, my shift and change has been a perimenopausal change. And part of my research, I found like Stats Canada is like 5.2 million women are in this phase of their lives now, and such a change in demographics and in our political everything, right? And then on top of that, you have this hormonal shift and change that's happening in our own bodies, right? Do you do work in perimenopause?
Yeah, we absolutely do. One thing people tend to not be aware of, and to be honest, I just learned not that long ago, is that like a lot of women in postpartum go straight into perimenopause. So there isn't like a gap of years and years and years, especially with having babies later and later. So many women slide right into that. And so myself and other members of the team, we've taken extra training. I am a certified menopause mental health practitioner, which I hope also helps me through this transition, right? And going back to something we talked about earlier as well, like if we're not connected with our authentic values, like if that trunk isn't sturdy, then in perimenopause, we're also like, there's so many changes. Oftentimes there's changes happening in our homes and in our, like definitely with our hormones and how we look at things, how we value things, our own struggles. So I think it's important to incorporate mental health into perimenopause and menopause. It's a natural transition that happens for women, yet it is viewed as something's wrong with us. And so when we start to think about like the symptoms and the struggles that we experience in perimenopause are, they get in the way of us being able to function optimally. So if it was, diabetes, we get support for our eating and exercise and maybe insulin, but why is it perimenopause, again, a natural, there's no fault, there's no blame. You have not caused this on yourself. It is genetics, essentially. Why aren't there more supports for that? So we definitely support women through that because there's shifts, there's all kinds of shifts that happen around that time.
Yeah. And I wish I met you a year ago, but I mean, even still, all the things that you pretty much described me, because I had my son late, age 38, right? He's 6 now. I'm 44 now. And that shift was real. And the book was my writing that I did for my own mental health. That then emerged the tree and how to imagine and visualize your own growth. And that was what I did for myself. How can I visualize this that still feels like growth as this massive period of change that my life went through, and how much it resonates with so many other people, and the work that you do, like, so important because it is like your brain shifts and changes. That's how I felt, anyways. I'm sure you can speak more to the actual science behind it.
Yeah, I mean, there's absolute like hormone changes, right? And we know biologically that as our estrogen drops, there's estrogen is connected to, I believe, like all our vital organs, all our organs. And so if a major hormone is dropping, then we're gonna feel like you can't not, right? So, and that's gonna impact how you feel in your own body, right? So, I mean, puberty is absolutely, not easy for teens or preteens, but by the time we get to this age, we kind of forget it. I know I do. Like, I don't remember all those details, even though I have, one of my daughters is creeping towards that, and I wish I remembered more. So now it's like the awkwardness, the discomfort in our bodies, the not feeling connected to our bodies, like there's biology that is causing that. And that's why I say, like, it's so important to recognize, like, you are not doing anything wrong. You are not to fault. And then, when we talk about like the greater system and like the ecosystem of, misinformation. So there was a huge like reaction to one study years ago that said that hormone replacement therapy caused cancer in women. And so women stopped taking it. But we know now, after many, many, many studies, that like not only does hormone therapy reduce the chances of most cancers, it also reduces like cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis. And like, again, when we look back to like estrogens dropping in your body needs those hormones to function. So, I mean, could be a whole big conversation in itself, but in terms of like, you build this tree, and then it's totally disrupted, right? And so it's almost like rebuilding it again. It's a new chapter. I like that, the analogy of, we have chapters and you get to decide how much space each life event takes up in the book of your life. And so how much base is menopause going to take up, but it's definitely like, it's a chapter.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so perfect. And I write that there's seasons, right? So there's seasons throughout of it. And that wintering phase, oh geez. That was the hardest chapter to write because it was the hardest part for myself as well. Even as you say, what's wrong with me, that was a potential title for the book, What's Wrong with Me, and crossed out What's Right with Me. But maybe that's a future book that still comes out. But yeah, and recognizing that it is normal, like as part of the human woman cycle, and why we alienated ourselves over it. Still shake my head over that, but nonetheless. And so, like, as we kind of wrap up this conversation, because your wealth of knowledge and all the seeds that you can plant here as well, like, what are some of the offerings that you offer for people going through either any of those phases, that you want to highlight here?
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely our largest used service would be psychotherapy for moms, for women, birth trauma. We use something called eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is a specialized trauma therapy, which is incredibly effective for birth trauma. And I highlight that because birth trauma can be life-changing. And for so many moms, they don't seek help, like they internalize that, and then it can impact bonding with baby and family dynamics and access to healthcare, where like a few sessions with a specialized therapist can really change those outcomes. We also we do couples therapy, loss support. That's a big one close to my heart, because so many people, and actually I just learned regionally, the numbers have like gone way up in terms of miscarriage and stillbirths in our region. So we do offer support for those families. We do some groups, and we have an online platform called Empowered in Health, where we have workshops, groups, articles, information. We're hoping to expand that, to have more people providing their expertise and support, really like reducing that feeling of overwhelm and loneliness in motherhood and beyond. I'm sure we'll end up having a menopause section in there as well. Yeah. And then I guess the extra pieces are just, speaking and teaching, because the more people that have the knowledge around perinatal mental health and menopause mental health, the less isolating it is for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think thinking back to my journey, unplanned C-section, like I had this whole vision of how, and I mean, nothing goes as planned. It's like the number one thing. And yeah, how unprepared I was for that unplanned C-section 3 weeks earlier. Here you go, you're done work, no transition. It was just like, nope, you're done. Right. And it just shifts your world so fast. You can't plan for any of that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my first was a unplanned C-section as well. Second one, a very intense feedback. And then, I'm sure you can relate where people are like, oh, you have a healthy baby, like get over it. And it's like, whoa, but like so much happened to me and my body over the span of that short period of time. How do I even process that while taking care of a newborn and having everybody around me, not intentionally, but invalidating your experience?
Yeah, Tasha Eurich calls that grit gaslighting. Oh. And I really liked that term because I was like, totally. Because they're like, you have a healthy baby, you should be fine, right? Everybody has C-sections, right? So many people do. It's so normal. You're like, okay, I guess I just have to like push through and be super resilient and the mindset. And it's a hard thing to push through. And having those people around you who are just going to hold space to hear you.
Yes. And the flip side of that, I just want to throw in there is I'm speaking at a conference in November about trauma bombing and how there's this culture of people sharing not what you just shared, but sharing like details of their experiences with other people to try to bond. But what it actually does is the people receiving the information don't know what to do with that information.
Oh,
right? Like
so good. Yeah.
Yeah. Or non-professionals. So like that, like where do we find that medium of feeling supported and well-being when we deserve to have support and feel validated in our experience? And also culturally, society is not prepared. It's not healthy to hear the amount of trauma details that are readily shared.
Oh, that's such a good, and it brings to mind, I had just seen a podcast, Brian Miller, and the first thing he says is like, when you're telling your stories, like, don't open the wound and show them the wound. Don't show them the scabs, right? Like, but the scar, but then how to do that? Like, how do you talk about the scar without, what was the word that you called it? Trauma
Like
bomb?
bombing. Yeah.
Trauma bombing. Oh, that's so good. I will have to make sure that I tune into that, because I think that's really important, how we tell our stories.
Yes. Like,
Yeah.
are we sharing for our own benefit, or are we sharing for other people? Like, I think that grounds me as well when we talk about our values of like feeling grounded in being curious with ourselves. Like, why am I asking these questions? Why am I sharing this information? What is my intended outcome?
Well, I'll definitely tune in on that, because myself learning how to tell stories and owning our stories in a way that's supportive to others. Yeah. Very awesome. Well, I mean, Amber, we started with the seed. We went through so many rich stories on how to do that. And so I want to ask you, like, was there an Ensō moment for yourself that first sparked your curiosity and passion for this work, that you want to wrap this all up for our audience?
I mean, absolutely. I think that moment, like when I think of the moment of sitting in our old house, because we moved recently, in this teal chair holding my newborn. I think it was one of the first days my husband had returned to work, and I had a C-section of like, I have 7 years post-secondary education. I have a great job. I feel very confident in my work and my support system. And here I am sitting alone with this newborn, struggling with breastfeeding, like feeling so alone and overwhelmed. And so, how do I come out of this and help others to not feel this way? That's, yeah.
Oh, and it connects with me. And I hope that it connects with others, and your own seeds of wisdom that you're planting to help so many others, and that ripple effect that happens from it. And for our listeners, I hope that this conversation inspired you to look at your own journey and find the courage to keep growing, like right from where you are and on your own terms. But knowing that there's a wealth of information around us and in our communities that can help you continue your own journey, and continuous, imperfect, and impermanent as it is, and those around you. So if you're inspired by Amber and want to learn more about her work in perinatal mental health, the links will be in the bio here, and make sure you check that out. So I want to thank everybody for listening to Ensō Tell Me More. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe and share it with someone who you might feel needs to hear this today. And until next time, keep growing. Amber, do you want to close out today?
I just want to say I am so grateful to be here, and I love all these concepts. I'm really excited to be able to share your wisdom and your knowledge with more of my community.
Excellent. So have a great day. Thank you for listening.